Hello and welcome to the Lloyds British Business Excellence Awards Beyond the Trophy podcast. Today we have a little bit of a different take. We are interviewing one of our favourite judges, I'm allowed to say that, from the programme, none other than Amanda Dorel from Lloyds. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you.
Amanda has been a judge on the programme, I think, for probably 5 or 6 years, possibly longer than that. When
5 or 6 years,
in its previous guise.
Yeah.
So you have the pleasure of meeting a lot of our finalists each year, and sometimes you might already know them, or you'll be speaking to new clients and really learning about. I think you have one of the most unique positions to learn about how British businesses are feeling at that point in time. So September really is key.
It is, yeah.
So for our viewers and listeners who don't know you, although I'm sure there's lots of businesses in the programme that do, tell us about your role at the bank and how long have you been at Lloyds?
So I'm now on my 39th year.
39 years.
Wow. So never wanted to be anywhere else.
And so how did that start? Tell us about your career and then tell us about the role you do now.
So I started, and this is where the mathematicians watching the podcast work out my age, but I started at the age of 18, having taken my A-levels with my mother encouraging me into work, saying, well, you go and be a banker till you marry a man, which was her view at the time. And I've spent a lot of time in my career talking to ladies about actually the glass ceiling is imaginary. You can keep going, ladies. Don't start like I did. But yeah, I started straight from school, and I've been in commercial banking, or I've been in Lloyds banking ever since. So, but I've been in commercial banking, which is clearly where you and I have met, for the last 30 years.
30
years. Right from basically being given a small portfolio of my own of SME clients, which I looked after. And I realised that was just the best job. And as a result, I have worked with SMEs for the last 30 years because I've never wanted to be removed from them. And clearly now I'm in a leadership role with a team of bankers who look after the SMEs on my behalf, and I'm the regional director. But I still get that buzz every day of knowing what they're doing out there to look after SME businesses, which was the buzz that first attracted me into commercial banking 30 years ago.
So tell me, what does a typical day look like for you as the regional director? Is it organised geographically, or how? And do you go see these businesses? How does it work?
When I can, yes. And I still say that is the best part of the job. So when I look back on a year, the days that I've had out with the teams, with their clients, with their prospects, with their professionals, seeing the difference my people are making to those local businesses is just, they are the best days. So actually being out there and seeing the difference that my people can make to those businesses in terms of achieving their growth and aspirations is absolutely brilliant. And that's what got me out of bed 30 years ago when I first had my own portfolio. And that's what I still enjoy doing. Not all days are like that. So obviously as a regional director, there's days that are focused on, the operations, etc. But the days out with the clients are still my favourite days. My patch extends from Cornwall to Kent, and I look after the trading businesses. So, the variety is amazing. You could be with a hotel owner one day, you could be with a manufacturer the next, you might be out of their legal business the next. So, but all my people know trading businesses. They understand working capital needs. We really look after them in terms of that capability journey. And they are out there every day adding value to those businesses in terms of whatever the goal is for those business owners and business managers to achieve. So, yeah, great job.
I can really feel that passion from you. And I've always felt this as well whenever you come to judging or any of our sort of various networking events that we do. It's kind of a running joke within our team as well about Amanda is going to be working the room. And you make sure that you speak to everyone, and it's because you genuinely, you care.
Absolutely.
You want to make sure that everyone's being looked after. I mean, Amanda, you've even been doing it here today, just before we came in, to make sure that everyone that you speak to is being looked after within Lloyds. So I think you convey that passion so eloquently as well.
Thank you.
When it comes to the businesses that you're talking to, particularly, I mean, that's quite a geographical, like quite a coverage that you've got there. So not only you must be really on it with your team, but when you're speaking to businesses, would you say some of the challenges that are coming your way, are they what you would expect? Do you sort of do it based on where they are in that journey, or is it different by sector? Do you see trends, particularly, I would say, towards the latter end of 2025, of what it is that businesses are feeling and what they need from Lloyds in 2020?
Where we really differentiate ourselves at Lloyds Banking Group is, we have people on the ground who look after those businesses in the local community. And the point I was making earlier about the eclectic set of sectors, but they understand the differences between the different sectors. They spend a lot of time making sure they become specialist experts in them. And no meeting is the same. One moment they might be meeting somebody in the morning in one particular industry where the people are talking about an exit plan because they might be nearing retirement, and an hour later they might be meeting a completely different type of trading business where they're new and they're trying to expand their team and might need some finance support in terms of working capital. So, what we pride ourselves on is really getting alongside those businesses, understanding exactly what they need, A, at that given point, and B, for the future, and working collaboratively with them, and then bringing in our specialist partners to support them where required to help them achieve whatever success looks like. And that's really different for different businesses. Some, want to be the next Richard Branson, and some are just happy to have a lifestyle business, and as long as they generate enough for their immediate family needs, are not necessarily looking to be the limited, the PLC of the future. And that's absolutely fine. Success is different for different people.
Exactly. And I think that speaks to the success of Lloyds in that you're there for all those moments, and you can provide that support and growth or not growth of whatever that business might need. So looking back to you and your career.
Wow, this might take a while.
Well, you must have had a fair amount of experience in those 39 years. I'd had no idea you started at 18. That is phenomenal. And what experiences do you think perhaps shaped you the most over that period of time? Obviously, there must be key moments where you're like, oh my God, right, can we do this? How can we make the best decision here to move forward?
I think moments of truth for me is just taking bits from different leaders I've worked with. I've worked with many, many characters, as you can imagine, over 39 years, and I've looked at all my various leaders over the time and taken bits that I like, and perhaps said, well, I might not repeat that bit myself. And hopefully that's rounded me into the person I am today, which is I'm given a firm but fair label. I understand the business, I can help where required, but I'm empathetic. It's back to that empathy bit. Really understand what it is to walk in my people's shoes because I've been there.
Would you say your perception of leadership has changed over the years?
Definitely. I think if I just talk about my own experiences, I think we've gone from, I talked earlier, didn't I, about gender differences. So I'm really pleased to say that the organisation I joined 39 years ago is very different the organisation I'm in now. We've balanced some of the differences around representation in underrepresented genders or ethnicities, which is absolutely great. And I think that's really important because if we are genuinely going to reflect the communities we serve, we need to look like the communities we're going to serve. So I think leadership has changed from probably 39 years ago, where leaders would tell everybody to do everything exactly the same way, to a much more purpose-driven, individual-driven. So leaders now in Lloyds Banking Group will work with people in very different ways depending on what is right for that person and how they want to show up. So it's evolved, but it's evolved for the better. And I think if I think about my own leadership style, I would say that has evolved the same way too. Rather than being given a set of instructions, this is the way you do the job, you're given the freedom now to do the job the way you think is right for the individuals that work with you.
It's an empowerment.
Absolutely.
Do you feel empowered in the business to be able to make those decisions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's brilliant. You know, to be able to set that example as well, particularly for perhaps some of the younger members who might be joining on the grad scheme themselves. To put you there as an example of this is what it could look like, particularly within the commercial bank.
Yes.
And so you clearly have this passion for business.
Yes.
Where do you think that comes from?
I think it really does come back to that job 30 years ago. You never forget the moment. I mean, if I bring it to life, I was working in Wiltshire. I had a client who was a hairdresser who opened their second shop with help from me. That made, and when I drove home that night, I helped make their dream come true. At the time I was dealing with a self-employed artist who used to work so hard. And one day she sold a picture for a phenomenal amount of money. And I felt absolutely infused that I was part of that with her.
You are, yeah.
So, and that's still what motivates me now. If you asked me earlier about a day in the life of it, if I can get to a Friday and I hear a case study from one of my team about something they've done in Kent or Cornwall to help a business, that's still what gets me out of bed in the morning. So the difference is I'm not doing it myself now. I'm doing it through my wonderful team, but that is still why I do what I do.
So those case studies, I think with the BBAs, we have this marvellous ecosystem of case studies and a wonderful batch of newbies coming in as well at the moment. So if you think back to your years of judging the BBAs, are there any businesses that really stick out to you where you think, oh my God, I'm so lucky that I saw that and I'm so proud of them for winning, or I did even becoming a finalist?
Oh, wow. Probably there were so many. I mean, it is definitely one of the highlights of my calendar year and myself and all of the judges come out after a day of judging and go, my goodness, we are just blown away with the passion and the difference that so many businesses make to this country. And I mean, off the top of my head, Upholstery to You as a startup business.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, they came in after lunch, so we just had lunch and we were like, oh, we've had a lovely dinner. And then the two brothers walked in and absolutely infused us with what was a really great idea. Where did that idea come from? But what a phenomenal business. This year, ADHD 360 with Phil.
Good old Phil.
When he just pitched to us all about the difference he was making to people that really needed his help. One particular person had been on the NHS waiting list for 30 years. And he got a diagnosis with the help of Phil and his business. We always, us judges, all look at each other and go, wow, that is a purpose-filled business. It's a tough day because everybody you present to us, Sarah, is top quality. And we don't always agree as judges, and we have to talk at the end of the day because there are so many that could win that award, but ultimately we know only one can. So you give us a tough gig, but you absolutely give me a day that I think, wow, I just love working for this organisation because these businesses make such a big difference in this country.
I don't envy you in having those tough decisions, and particularly I think with the SME business of the year category, it's one that Lloyds has always partnered with us on, and I think it's the one everyone wants to win.
Absolutely. It's the big one.
It's the big one. We leave it to the last one that we give out of the night. Sorry, that means that probably you hold up back on the drinks because it's the last one to present. But it's really to go out and say that they're the SME business of the year with the Lloyds Bank logo next to them. And Phil, as a great example, was dumbfounded on the night there, emotional himself. And I found myself sort of validated. I was like, Phil, you deserve this. Yeah. This is, you really deserve this. You are changing lives. He really is. And it's also no surprise that he won Entrepreneur of the Year as well.
Yeah.
So really, and I think a lot of the businesses that probably you speak to through the programme, once they come through this process, I don't think they quite realise until that judging day quite how hard the awards are to win.
I agree.
And and that's why we work so hard to make sure that those finalists are they're ready to speak to you as a panel and get. I think everyone thinks they're going to get grilled, but actually, a lot of the time, I find that the finalists, once they come out of your judging panel, they feel like they've had the advice that they needed as well.
Yes.
It's not just,
it's not just a dragon's den. Really.
Exactly.
There's a bit of that.
There's a bit of that. What's that saying? It always says, we listen and we don't judge. Well, we listen and we do judge, but in the way that, you're being employed to do so. But I think you lead that panel perfectly on the day to really make sure that you're bringing it back to the values of what SMEs should be doing in this country at this point. In terms of looking forward and why these awards matter so much, and why not just the awards but your work at Lloyds matters so much, what does the future look like for you and your team, particularly in 2026?
One of the things we are really looking at now is AI and data. So we know that's coming at the world as a whole at a phenomenal rate. But what my team are so excited about is AI in the future will enable them to ensure that their customers are looked after digitally for quite straightforward requests, and then they can spend more time alongside them, helping them with these growth and aspirations of that particular business that I was talking about earlier in the podcast. So I think it's a superb opportunity. I think we're learning as we go,
Yeah.
So, myself, 39 years in, AI was not even a concept 39 years ago when we did all our banking by paper. So it just goes to show that the rate of knots that the world is speeding up. But I think for the future, that's a phenomenal opportunity for the group. I think it's a phenomenal opportunity for the clients in terms of simple requests being served digitally. And I think it's a phenomenal opportunity for my people because they will spend more time doing what they love the most, which is out and about with businesses and local communities. So there's training to go through, there's upskilling, there's confidence. But that is definitely something on my mind as I look to the future for all of us.
And that's quite telling in that, if you can automate as much as you possibly can, that's great. But your team still needs that human interaction.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that is so important to business leaders to know that, yes, you're on the end of the phone, but you can also have a meeting pretty quickly if you need to make those decisions and make them strategically.
Yes.
I think you're really good at flying the flag for women in business.
Yes, yeah, big passion of mine.
Yeah, same. And I have felt supported by you personally over the years because you are such a champion of the awards and a champion of the work we do. So do you feel like there's a shift for women in business? I think Lloyds fly the flag really well.
Yeah, I agree.
But what changes if what would you do if you were straight away going to become, I don't know, CEO perhaps of Lloyds or any other organisation to really help women to grow their businesses or help women in corporate?
It's a really good question. I think you're absolutely right. I think we do a phenomenal amount. So, I can talk about this quite eloquently because on the side of the desk, I'm also, as part of the coverage business, the inclusion lead. So, we do a lot internally around making sure that we're really supporting female bankers in their careers. We're giving them confidence, that we are mentoring them and we are really getting them to believe in themselves. Because sometimes one thing that holds a woman back is her own confidence rather than reality as to whether she has the skills. Yeah. So I think we do that really well internally. Externally, we have the Female in Business Entrepreneurs Scheme. So we have a whole team, again, that are trying to give our female business owners and entrepreneurs the go-to, again, to help their confidence. So we just need to do more of that because, we've still got some way to go, both internally and externally. We still need to knock down some of the perceived barriers that women often put at themselves, both internally and externally, and we have more to do. And that's another passion of mine in terms of how do we support female-led businesses as well as supporting female bankers to be the best they possibly can. So the more role models we see, the better. and you're a great role model, running your own business as a female, phenomenally successful. But more of those, more people shouting about their success, I think encourages others either to become female bankers or female business owners. And it's the same agenda for both.
I think that we're also just talking about it a little bit more. Things like this, things like what we do at the main ceremony.
Yes.
I think it's probably important to point out at this point that the outgoing CEO is a woman from Lloyds, and the incoming CEO is a woman.
Brilliant.
Who we obviously welcome with open arms. And I think it's testament to the internal feeling that you guys have. And I'm always impressed by that. Obviously, I have a passion myself for encouraging more women to start businesses. And again, it really does come down to empowerment. I agree. If we could just empower every decision that someone has when they're going through that process. And I think you do that, Amanda, probably more than you realise.
Thank you.
In your day-to-day work. And I didn't know that you were also the inclusion lead. So that's brilliant.
Yeah, something I've been very passionate about.
Yeah, it must be fascinating.
Well, it probably goes back to the comment earlier. I was going to work till I married a man, and 39 years later, I have married the man, but I'm still working. And I think from a generation point of view, it has shifted, which is great. And I have 2 girls, so I am super passionate about not putting perceived glass ceilings into their prospective careers, but we still have more to do. But as you say, it's great that our last 2 BCB CEOs have been ladies, and one day we may have a female chair of the Lloyds Banking Group. Who knows?
One day. Well, I think that day might happen probably sooner than you realise. But I think that a lot of the perceptions in banking I remember my own experiences. It was like, oh well, all the boys will go into banking and finance, and all the girls go into different sectors. But I'm really pleased that there is this shift change. But I think, there are still, like you said, these challenges, particularly around childcare for working mothers and funding.
Yes.
2 pence of every pound goes to a female-founded business still in the UK. So we've got much work to do.
I agree.
But if you remember Trini,
she was great.
The BBEAs,
absolutely great.
Who's a great example, not only of a female-founded business, but also someone who started their business in their 50s. And I think that's also perhaps something that we don't really talk about enough. It's not necessarily your gender. It's perhaps your background or what point in life you might bring an award-winning business to the BBAs. So, in this career, you've obviously learned a lot of lessons, I think. What key piece of advice would you give to someone at the beginning? Maybe do twofold. So someone coming into Lloyds who's starting their career there, and then secondly, what advice would you give to someone starting a business and Lloyds are their bank?
Okay, good question. So starting with the career, but probably one I talk about a lot. So what I do try to do is career stories regularly, because I have gone through nearly 4 decades now of a very changing society. So I do often tell my career story to audience of mixed genders, mixed heritage, everything. But the one thing I always say to all of them, regardless of background, is be really clear about what you want. And the reason I say that is, and this may be down to being a woman, but the reason I say that is I remember a big moment of truth many years ago was I was overlooked for a role. And I remember going to see the line manager at the time, and I stomped into his office and said, why didn't you think of me? I could have done that. And he said, well, you never asked, Amanda. And I think, again, back to female perspective, sometimes that ladies aren't very good at going, I'm here and that's what I want, and articulating what they want. So my first bit of advice to anybody coming into Lloyds Banking Group is be really clear about what you want. Make sure the right people know what you want. Don't just sit there and wait. Go and make it happen. And then I think for an SME starting out, it's probably a similar bit of advice. Have a plan, know what you want, whether that's financial plan, go and talk to a bank, or whether that's another plan in terms of marketing, go and talk to the right people, but be really clear about what you want, and then go and find the right stakeholders to help you with it. And I think that's where certainly my people add value is sometimes they haven't got the solution in Lloyds Banking Group, but they know people that have got the solution. So for that SME, going and building a support network around them of people they can go to ask, particularly if they're starting out and at that point there's still one person bands, that's a lonely world.
Yeah, relatable.
As I'm sure you probably remember. So surrounding yourself with go-to confidence, I think is really, really key, but also knowing what your success looks like, which goes back to what I was saying earlier. Success is very different for different businesses.
True. So, and then finally, what advice, it's probably very similar, in terms of businesses coming to present to you in 2026 for the British Business Excellence Awards for SME Businesses of the Year. What are you looking for? What businesses do you want to see this year? What does excellence look like for you as a judge in 2026?
So I'll probably bring out my diversity and inclusion badge. The one thing I look at, and all my fellow judges do as well, but because of my passion particularly about underrepresented people in society, one of my passions is if somebody comes in and they talk about what they've done around their inclusive agenda, that gives them a secret point for me. So I may be giving tips away. But for me more broadly, Sarah, it's those people that have come in and they've thought about the difference they're going to make to their colleagues, their staff, the local community, the inclusion point, the sustainable point. That's one of Lloyds Banking values, and we've got it there for a reason. What's our business going to look like in 5-10 years' time? How is that business impacting the planet? So the businesses that come in and you can sort of tick off lots of criteria are more likely to get me sat up listening. Having said that, I know how well you do this job. All of them will get me sitting up listening, but there's just a few little things that I look out for.
Well, that's brilliant, and I think we'll definitely flip that up and show it to our potential entrants for this year. Amanda, thank you so much for coming here today. It's been such a pleasure to learn more about your career. I feel like I have such pockets of wisdom from you to give to other people and to me personally. So thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been super. Thank you.